Well, hey, I'm glad you joined. Yeah. Oh, hey, we're recording. Yay. Great. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to coaching. It's a chilly, crisp, February 8th? Yeah, it's pretty much what you can expect on a February 8th, at least in Utah. I don't know. Key Largo right now is probably not, 21 degrees. So, oh yeah, I've been checking out some sites in Florida with a little help from Joe, who's just there. So, well, hey, small group this morning, but let's make it worth our while, right? How many of you attended Matt Townsend last week or have watched Matt Townsend on the recording? If you have, hit the chat. I'd love to see how many have already watched that. And I'd love to get some insights on what you thought stood out. I'm looking at my notes right now. Nobody? Crickets. Oh, yes. Okay, Jill, yes. You watched it with Nikki, Joe? Now, were you sitting on her right or you were not? Okay.
I knew what was coming. It was funny though, because during the meeting, I was on the stage and Matt was to my right. So after he finished speaking, I was like, so you realize that you were to my right the whole time.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, I thought I've said this on sales meetings, but I thought the recording turned out really well. I think that's something we could do over and over again.
Yeah, it's about as good as you can hope for with a little pin cam like that.
Right. Yeah. Hey, I'm glad to hear you enjoyed it, Phil. Looking at some of the comments. Kim, great. Let's see, Jim. Yeah, we got to bring him back again. He would love to come back. And mentioned that to me. He said the group was really fun and lighthearted, and he said you could tell they were eager to laugh. And I'm like, yeah, we try to find the humor in things. We have to, right? Or we go crazy. So he had a lot of good things to, I think, to emphasize. But before, so look, if you didn't take notes as to what books he was suggesting, I've got them right here. So I'm going to show you. I already ordered them. This was The Deep Work or Deep Work. So take notes if you want, if you missed what books that he recommended. Here was the other one, Essentialism.
Well, if you read the authors, I'll put them all in the chat. So Deep Work is by, it's like Cal somebody, right?
The Deep Work was Cal Newport. And Essentialism was Greg McKeown. And it's Keown. McKeown, maybe? McKeown. And then this is one I thought was kind of cool. This I've already started to read this, The Happiness Advantage. And it's by Sean Achor, Achor. There's one more. And Tammy kifed it this morning out of my bag and said, why are you taking this to the office? How am I supposed to read it? So I'll get you the other one. There were 4 books that he recommended. Since we're at it, this is another book that I'm starting. This is more like leadership, but if we're all leading somehow, right? But Trust and Inspire by Stephen Covey. Not that Stephen Covey, but the other Stephen Covey.
Yeah, John's right. The Confidence Gap was the other one.
Oh, that's right, John. Yep. Okay. I mean, pretty easy nowadays just to jump on Amazon and have them send you a book, So what were some of your favorite quotes, or what did you get out of all of that? Like if you went back and you said, hey, saw a great speaker today, and someone said, well, God, what did he talk about? Or why was it so good? What made it so good? And Phil says he's already got him queued up on Audible. That's awesome.
You know, he used a phrase in terms of dealing with difficult people I'd never heard before. He said that a lot of times when people don't have their emotional needs met, they're starving. That was an interesting phrase. And he said, starved people will starve people. Meaning, if they have lacked a certain essential element of a relationship, they will hold that same element back in others on the relationship. And I'd heard like hurt people and whatever else, but the whole idea about they're starving for that sort of changes the context and makes you think more about how you can be more giving in those areas as opposed to more defensive when someone's coming at you clearly in a, you know, in a negative emotional state.
Right.
That was really powerful. And then that test, you know, the AID or whatever, the personality characteristic test, that was an adventure.
Huh. I wanted to save that last thought for just a sec, Joe, but I think you're onto something. How many times we've got an upset seller, client, buyer, whatever, and they get, you know, they kind of spew on us. We're just the nearest thing. So when you're looking at it through this starved perspective, you get empathy and understanding, and hopefully you get patience. You know, the saying is it's easy to love the lovable, but, you know, what about those that aren't so lovable in the moment? How about that? You know, can we still find a way to love them? Write this in the chat, Joe, if you want. You probably type faster than I, but I've got the starved words here. The first one is safety, and then trust. So yeah, to Joe's point, they don't feel safe, or they lack trust in their world or in that moment. Appreciation, respect, validated, encouragement, and dedicated. So safety, trust, appreciation, respect, validated, encouragement, dedicated. Right next to that, do you remember you said you can't have relationships deeper than your character?
Yeah, John posted that exactly. Then
Oh,
your
yeah,
character is
right.
able
Good
to
job,
sustain.
John. Yeah, I mean, so what's the takeaway there? I mean, I instantly thought, my goodness, is my character deep enough? You know, like if I'm longing for more meaningful, deeper relationships, what about my character? Can I work on my character? Can I recognize my, you know, my piece in this? And yeah, Phil, so that smoke, I think I have a picture of that of what the smoke was, but it was all the harmful things, right? That was the smoke. And where there's smoke, there's fire. I thought that was a real, guys, if you haven't seen it, inside the kind of a smoke animation were words that were very harmful to people. So, and where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's fire, we're lacking this. We have starved people, you know. So that was kind of the idea. Yeah, and there's the confidence gap. Okay. Well, anybody else got any, you know, like what really the life is a paradox? Hey, from that, you know, like how many of us wanted something so bad, and then when you got it, it was like, ho hum, you know, like 2 or 3 days later, you know, it's just a car. Or yeah, you know, I made my first, I loved how he was talking to our group, and he marched right up those income levels, because I have to admit, I may have given him some inside information. Like, hey, there's a lot of people in the room, Matt, that have made $500,000 easy, or look easy, some that have made $1 million, you know. And I thought he kind of nailed us on that. And I think there was a lot of us who reached for something and then got there and wondered, wow, this is not exactly what I thought it would be. Yeah, John, that was my favorite quote, really. The trade your expectation for appreciation. and your world, I think he said it changes instantly. And this is, we all know how important gratitude is, because gratitude is an inventory of the things that are going well and not a list of everything that's not right, which we sometimes focus on. I do find it very interesting that a lot of times when we get down on ourselves, or we're upset, or we're depressed, or clouds are hanging on us, how we turn the volume up on the things that are not right, but we turn the volume down on all the things that are going well. And why is that? Why are we so hard on ourselves at times when we could be, if you're going to put, in other words, how about an even emphasis at least? How about have the volume balanced, where we're just as loud in our minds about the things that are right and good as we are about the things we need to work on, or troubles or challenges. It's just interesting, right? Why do we do that to ourselves? So I love that one, John. That was my number one. My number two was, we spend a life in the thick of thin things. So this is certainly a perspective of priority, of time. And remember, he kind of bluntly said, what if he had 2 years to live? And then he marched us around, well, what if he had 2 months to live, 2 weeks to live, 2 hours to live? And really just step back and say to yourself, are you getting those priorities right in your daily discipline? So we spend a life in the thick of thin things. Covey calls that the whirlwind, that we get swept away in the whirlwind and the tasks of the day. And then when the days are over, the weeks and months are over, we look back and go, did we spend the time with the things that mattered most? And that was certainly a lens of priority, which I really, really, really loved. Yeah, I love that too, Angie, that the bird, the branch would break beneath its feet, and yet he still sings, Perhaps that's an awareness of the gifts that the bird has, the ability to fly. And so it didn't change their attitude. It's a great message in all of that, to look at the good things that are, going well. Yeah, Stephanie, the ABCs. So really his whole entire talk was about that, right? Appreciate today. So that was the A, if you're taking notes. Believe in tomorrow. Connect deeply with people. So ABC, connect deeply with people. So appreciate, believe, and connect. Yep, love it. Yeah, the other one. Okay, awesome. Call, keep them coming. Thanks, John. That was another great one. And Jim, I completely agree. That became my number one. Master the micro moments. I've said this before, because of COVID, and we're not in the offices as much, and some people have not come back to the habits of being in the office. But there's just moments. Look, I'll let you in on a little. I don't know. How many of you walked by me in the office or I've come up to you and I've said something like, "Hey, it's my favorite Angie," or "Look, it's my favorite Colton"? Anyone have that happen? Yeah. Well, there's a method to my madness. I've got seconds sometimes, just in a passing of the hall, to first of all say your name, tell you I know you, and then remind you that you're my favorite. I mean, you care. I care about you. You matter to me. And there's just seconds there. Sometimes that's all I'll get with somebody in an entire day or week or month. It's just that little passing. And so I really, really connected with that one, John. I think that really matters. The things that are these little micro moments that make up a great day are really just seconds. And then the hours are the things that are the minutia, the whirlwind, the thick things that are thin. I really love that one. I just thought it was spot on. So, what do I do about that information? Well, I need to make sure that I spend those moments wisely, and I'm getting across what I want to get across in the seconds that I have. It doesn't take long to build those micro moments throughout a day and then combine them together. I thought that really was spectacular. Anybody else? I think we got a good group here. But anybody else got a thought or an emphasis that they took away from that? Hey Joe, how many views of that video? Do you know? The YouTube video?
I can look.
Just curious. Maybe we should do an over/under bet here and see what it is. Go. I think
I'm going over 5.
there's only 5 views.
No, I said I'm going over with 5.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think 50 would be a good number at this point. I'll bet you we climb that thing to a couple hundred. I would love that. I'm not sure when it counts, but I'm already into that. To watch it again, I'm at 30 minutes. Anybody else have anything to add about what the takeaway was there? Hey, I'm curious, those of you that are like don't have your video on, could you do me a favor? Because I want to see if you can see some, like if I showed you pictures and things on and shared my screen, can you see it? Just put yes or no, whether you can, in the chat, if you don't mind. Like, could you see what if I post something, or do I have to tell you? Like, how many of you can see, like, yeah, you don't have your video on, but driving, but you can see, yes, we can see it. Okay. I don't have any no's yet. I'm assuming most of you can see the screen. Okay. Yeah, John, happiest people use their strengths 10 hours a week. Yeah, that's where the fulfillment is, you know, when you are using your gifts, that's where you get happy. So this is a great little test, you know, for all of us, these principles that we're talking about is how are we doing there? Okay. We're going to talk about and do something that we've never done on coaching. Dun, da, da, da. I'll go away now. No, John, keep them coming, man. So now we've talked about some of these things, but we have not, I mean, you guys know me well enough, but I want to give you a couple images and then you guys. Okay, so first a story. Everybody's on the edge of their seat. Oh, please tell us a story. Tell us a story. So some of my earliest memories are with my Aunt Pris, bless her heart, she's passed away. She unfortunately was a chain smoker most of her life. So I think she unfortunately cut her life short. I mean, when I first met her, and of course that was the culture in the early 70s. Like, I don't know that, you know, to cut people a break here. We didn't really realize how bad it was. And some people just couldn't let it go. But sweetheart, she was the youngest. So she was closest to age, you know, so she was the teenager aunt for me. And she would drive me around and she would tell me about how I would just love to sing in the back seat. Didn't matter the song, like we'd go sing whatever song and we'd see it, probably something from Sesame Street. You know, if anybody remembers Sesame Street. So I'd sing these songs and would just go on and on. Fast forward, I'm 12 years old. My mom decides that she's going to buy me. I said my mom because at that time in my life, my dad and mom decided to get a divorce. That's a whole other thing. But I got a guitar when I was 12 years old. It's extremely frustrating. Extremely frustrating. At 12 years old to try to play, you know, the full size big guitar. It took forever to make a chord change. I was so frustrated. It turned out that the easiest chord to change from was E minor and A minor 7, because it's like, if you can see my hand, it's like taking these two fingers and you just move them down the fretboard. Like, it's just that simple. You go from, 5 strings and then to 4 and 3. And that's about the easiest chord. I remember the moment I did it like in tempo, like dum, dum, dum. And I actually changed chords. And it was like everyone in the house went, oh my gosh, because it seemed like years of torturing everyone where I could not make a change in tempo. So today I want to, like, my takeaway today is not just Matt Townsend. There's so many messages there, but I want to talk about morning routine, and I want to talk about habits, and how this relates to my story is a concept called muscle memory. It's a real thing, and I don't pretend to understand all the science behind it, but I do know that it is a very, very real thing. Let me tell you what muscle memory is. Muscle memory is when logically a musician, mostly musicians are used for this case, but it translates to other things. Their hands go where they go because their muscles have memorized where to go. It's a habit. It's like if you're playing a song that's got tons of notes, somehow your hand just goes there. It goes to the next note. If you stop to logically think about what the note is, you can't even recall what it is. So there's like this disconnect, like, well, what's the note? And you go, I don't know. And you'll watch a musician go through the motions and get a running start at something and then land on the note and then look at the note and go, oh, that's C sharp. It's unbelievable, like, how that happens. Like, the human ability to do things, just unbelievable. You guys know I love music. Like, that's my number one hobby. Just really enjoy it. There are times when I'm looking at something, particularly like a bass line, and it's really, really complicated. So what do you do when something's really complicated? Well, you break it down. So fast forward in my life to the time I'm like 14, 15, 16, and, the teenager has his first band, which I'm sure my mom was like, this is not music. Because we were playing, like, do you guys know the song by Motley Crue called Shout at the Devil? I mean, come on. I would be worried today if my kids were playing this. Shout at the devil. I mean, this is what they heard. To my parents, this was not music. And this is what I'm, like, practicing. This is what the band's going to play. I'm sure she thought her child was going to be some, loser druggie. And there you go. Let's see, Mike, do people not know that? I mean, that's at the time, right? Like in the mid 80s or early 80s, that was heavy, I can't believe today that elevator music somehow turned out to be Motley Crue and AC/DC. Like, how did that happen? Because in the mid 80s, that could not be played. Oh, no, we cannot play that at school basketball games. That is not appropriate, right? And shook me all night long. I mean, right. I can get it. I get why our parents were like, maybe we shouldn't play this for kids. But today it's like, it's everywhere, right? It's going to be all over. This music is all over the place. Anyway, yeah, boomers still rule, baby. That's right. 80s and 90s music was just fantastic. In many ways, some of great songs were written and created then. My first concert was Kiss. I mean, yes, my parents, I'm sure, were going, you're going to a Kiss concert. And if I remember right, at the time, I saw them a couple of times, but one of their songs was Heaven's on Fire. So Okay. You get now it's knights in Satan's service. That's right, Chris. That was right. They were bad, they were evil. And I guess they were if you looked at them that way. But I just like the simplicity of the music because see, Rush made me want to throw the instrument in the garbage. Okay, because it was not possible. Geddy Lee's an alien. Okay, he was too good. But Kiss, on the other hand, that was just 4 chords. That we could do. Some of you can relate, right? Well, I hope you can. I said we're going to do something we've never talked about in coaching. Well, I wake up with life and I go, look at the commonality. Look at the commonality. So this idea of muscle memory is really habits over time that become so subconscious that you just do them anyway. Like, I don't know that you're really thinking about it anymore. All right. If you've ever tried to pedaling a bike or the habits you use when think about driving a car. Okay. There's just some things that just naturally happen. Okay. They're just built in you. And this is muscle memory. And the reason why muscle memory is so amazing for a musician is because you don't have to think about it. You start to memorize patterns and then the body just does it. Well, what about our daily routines? So daily routine is really kind of what I want to, I think if you're going to have a great year, guys, it's going to start with your morning, and you really got to own your morning, and you got to make the morning the best time, and I get there's an exception to every rule, but I'm asking you, what are you studying and how is your morning looking like? And, are you jumping into chaos? You jump into social media, do you jump into bad content consumption, and then it has an effect on your day? Are you planning out your day, prioritizing your day in the morning? And are you getting out ahead of that? Well, we all know that have a good morning starts with the night before. You can't really retire to bed late because you're not going to be able to get up in enough time to have a good morning. So it does start with that. And I'm here to tell you, if you're out of bad habit, it's just make a commitment to do it 3 times in a row. And guess what happens? You start to build a memory for it. You start to build a better habit, and it starts to happen. This is why, I love 5:45 a.m. Chris, nice job. You're going to have a better morning that way, even when you got the little ones in the house that have to be everywhere, right? So, think about how many times the musicians had to play something over and over again until they get it right. Share screen. Oh, well, that's not what I wanted to show you. My desktop, which is a mess. Look, Joe. Oh, hurry, hide it.
No judgment. No judgment. Let people where they're at. The other muscle memory example I used to use a lot, Will, was the first Karate Kid with Mr. Miyagi and Danielson.
Yeah.
And it's not until he gets in a fight he realizes his body knows what to do.
That's right. The wax on, wax off, paint the fence, right?
Scrub the floor.
Love it. That's a really, really good example. So yeah, and Matthew, run your day. Don't let the day run you. I love that. Take control of it. So what happens is if I say something like having a good morning, start off with that mindset of, yes, I can do this. If there's something in the way, who can help me? Do I need to reorganize my life around something? Is there family members? The reason I like hexagon lessons is because it reminds me that there's answers, there's solutions, there's resources, and my attitude really matters when I go to change or improve something. I think a perfect morning would be something like, I think it would have a balance of things. Like, am I feeling my spiritual soul? Am I eating well? Do I get exercise? Do I study something that I need? And then when I think about studying, I could even break that down. What about the market, the current market conditions? What about what's new on the market in a particular area that I focus on? Do I know what just went active? Do I know what went pending? What about my listings and around my listings? Do I know if one of those active comps and competition properties went under contract? The morning is a great time to jump in and see kind of, well, where are we and what's up, and then how do I prioritize my day? So that's a good morning. The thing is, you can do this in 30 minutes. You could study something for just 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 5. If you really want to expand it, grab a TED Talk, that's 18 minutes. If you want to double up, then exercise in TED Talk. So I think this is really where the rubber hits the road. is how is our morning going? And if it's not going well, then just start off with the night before and try it 3 times in a row, and you'll build a new habit. You'll build muscle memory. You guys still watching the screen? So I just got some of these pictures back. These are just this is just kind of fun to mix it up a little bit on coaching. Kind of fun. Just some pictures of the band, some close-ups. So when you go into perform, or you're going to present, same thing, same concepts. You really need the content memorized, okay? Because the purpose of presenting is to connect with who's in front of you. So very much like being on stage here. In other words, you're not thinking about your content. You're not thinking about the notes on that left hand right here. You know, you're not thinking about that. You've already memorized that. So what's the objective? It's the objective to connect. And so you're focusing on the people in front of you, not what you're playing, not your content. Same principle for listing presentation. Okay. Couple others, kind of fun. Here's a wider view. This is kind of fun. These were all like ultra high res, so we could actually do like posters of some of this stuff. Just kind of cool. Let's see if I got one more, maybe. Yeah, kind of fun. So that night it was like 90 degrees and we were in these blazers. And I bet I lost 10 pounds that night. So playing that. Okay. I got spinning wheel. Joe knows why, because my desktop is filled with stuff. I can't shrink them. So let me get rid of these. I guess, you know, the hobby, the band, has commonality to the profession. And look at your hobbies and the connection that you have to principles that apply not only in the hobby, but also what happens when you're in your profession. So you can imagine being on stage and being in front of people, having people look at you is a really good practice for presenting in front of people and being natural at that and practicing that. You have to be okay with failing. You have to be okay with being imperfect. You have to be okay playing the wrong note, being out of tune, forgetting the lyrics. You have to be okay. You have to be okay with falling off the stage. You got to be okay with all of that. You know, if you can't live with that, then it's not gonna go well. You have to be able to brush it off. So it's turned out to be a great environment of practice. Another great environment of practice for me was spending 12 years teaching A to Z review to real estate agents who were taking tests. A to Z review. Like that's really, really good practice. 12 years, right? What are you rehearsing? What are you practicing? I mean, how is that going for you? You know, do a little bit every day, that adds up. It starts to change you, and it should change you. It should improve you. And I guess that's my hope. I mean, I'm after you being fulfilled and happy. It's not GCI. GCI may be a part of that, or part of that. It may be a portion of our lives, but it's not all of our lives. My objective here is to have you fulfilled and happy. And if you feel fulfilled and happy, I know you'll be better when you interact with people. Well, that's a complicated equation. There's a lot of different things that need to be right there. You know, yesterday, Kevin Larson just said something really, really, like, it was simple, but it was really good. He happened to mention that the Ronies were out of town on family vacation. And then he said, they're setting an example for us. So how many of you right now have rest or vacation? So something like a disconnect weekend or something longer, like a vacation planned already. Chris, I like that. Nice job. So April's going to take some time off in April. That makes total sense. So you don't forget. That's awesome. April's going to be gone in April. Awesome. Oh, yeah, that's right. Israel in March. Awesome. Great. Convention vacation. No kids. Okay. Love it. That's great. We're going to have a lot of fun in Vegas. I hope you guys are all going. If you're not registered, do it. It's when it's in Vegas, it's easy for us to go. You can all drive, So make sure you're there. It's an amazing, it's the best place to get your tank filled and come up with ideas. So lots of breakouts, lots of good classes. Some of the best instructors in the country will be there. And of course it's Berkshire Hathaway, and it's just going to be great. And we're going to have a lot of us there. I bet you if you take spouses and everybody, we're going to be near 150 of us from Utah going. So we'll be very well represented. So yeah, Shannon, Belize, awesome. So instantly when you calendar rest, you instantly divide up and you make short range goal. Like you make an aid station in a marathon. So it helps you. But if you have not yet calendared rest, make that a priority, please. And your spouse will love you for it. When you initiate, no, not that, a calendar. Another thing to be able to do is you have to laugh at your own jokes on Zoom, because if I can't entertain myself, I'm done. Okay, if you can initiate, try that again. No, not that. A vacation, it sends a really great message to your spouse. That you're wanting to be with them and they are a priority. Remember the 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 hours? Yes. So make sure that you're calendaring your rest. It's a really big deal and you'll get more inspired. Yesterday, a really good friend was like, hey, can I swing by? And it's a band member and they needed to swim by the house because they were leaving for Mexico today. And guess what they said to me? I've been so busy. Why is that? Isn't that so you calendar the rest, you're sprinting up to that aid station, that break, and you get so busy. There's some, it's not a coincidence. It happens to everybody. I know we're trying to fit it all in, but how come deals come out of nowhere when you do that? So principle number 1 was to make sure we have a good morning routine. Number 2, calendar our rest. Okay. Want a third one? It's like, what's the third one? No, not. Okay. I got to get control of myself here. Yeah. Okay. I have a pick of one. I'm going to pick one. Let's see which one. Okay. I got one. You ready? Now I heard Audible book, but I'm going to make a pitch for something else. That's right, Kristen. If business is slow, book a vacation. Okay, so husband and wife here. Yeah, they're going to work these things out. Chris and Kristen, they're going to work these things out. Okay. So I realized something. So one of my mentors said, so I go, hey, coach me. Like, what am I not doing I should? Or what am I doing I shouldn't? And he's like, I don't know, Will, you're doing great. He puts his arm around me. You're doing great. Kind of like brushing it off. And then, no, seriously. He goes, well, I don't know. He says, are you reading any good books? And I went, well, I haven't. Right. You mean for like enjoyment? I mean, I've got, Trust and Inspire, The Advantage. I've got, let's see, Dysfunctions of Teams, Deep Work. Let's see, Prospecting, Effective People. I mean, right. And then he says, but if you're reading any good books, like, and I go, for fun? You mean like just for enjoyment? He says, well, yeah. And I went, well, no. And then I'm like kind of feeling sheepish. And I said, he goes, when's the last time? And I don't want to say. So, all right, maybe the third tip on coaching today is I hope that, the thing about reading like a novel is it helps with vocabulary, it helps with storytelling, it helps with pattern. Of course, it can kind of get your mind, away, and it's not social media. So, like turn your phone off and then what? Like, could you read a good book? Well, they can inspire you too to get into action. So, what book am I reading? Well, I'm almost done with it. Actually, I'm a pretty fast reader. I wasn't always like that. By the way, my life here. So when I was in third grade, I was put into special reading classes. Do they still do that today? Do they still like pick kids out of the class and go, you're really special. We're going to put you in a class where kids can't read. And then you feel really special because everyone around you can't read. Do they still do this, Joe?
They still do.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if that's working.
My senior in high school has the same setup. I mean, it's a little different. He's autistic, but yeah, they still do that.
Well, I remember going to a special reading class because I could not read. And, here my dad is like this physician and, he's a doctor. And he's like, I remember driving down the highway. He's like, read that billboard. And I'm like, I can't read that billboard. Anyway, go give ourselves a little space, right? To become something, even though you're not in the moment. But I love reading.
You turned out okay, buddy.
Yeah, it turned out okay. Thanks, Joe. Well, if you saw my library downstairs, I've got hundreds and hundreds of books and tons of novels. And it helps you when you write. It helps you how you present, talk, and speak, and vocabulary and communicating, and reading can also be fun too. So there you go. There's my third tip. So we got muscle memory really is habit. And that's the story about muscle memory. The reason I brought the band into it is because your hobbies have patterns too that can teach you in your profession. And they can be good for you if you recognize pattern and build a good morning routine, right? And then, what was my second one? This is where in a classroom, oh, you said this, and yeah, that was good. But on Zoom, I just get to ask questions and there's just no responses. So Matt Townsend and his the gratitude journal, he did this voice. How did he? Oh, my gratitude journal, or whatever he did, a voice that he did. I just love my gratitude journal. I just love it. Something like that, right? Am I getting that right? I write my gratitude journal every day. I just love my gratitude journal. Okay, no. This is a tough group. I'm telling you, if you can survive in a Zoom group, man, you could go be like a comic anywhere. They could just boo you and you'd be like, I don't care. I love my jokes. So anyway, so back to the other thing. So maybe you should pick a book you like to read, guys. That's what I'm saying. And it'll inspire you and you'll get refreshed and you'll get disconnected long enough to have an idea. Re-engage your business, you get idea. Let me talk about idea for a second. I got 10 minutes, right? Remember, let me go back to share screen. We'll get serious for just one last moment. Yeah, right here. Okay. I think I'm going to edit something. This is always a journey for me. All this content is just me studying and, what I know in the moment. But I think I'm going to change hope to idea. I think I'm going to change that. I don't mean to, because I don't want to minimize what hope is, but idea is very important. Every time you get an idea, you need to do something with it. If you're not doing anything with it, it has no ability to help you because the effect is over here, right? Effect is in the results column. So how do I go from idea to results? Well, look everything that's in the between. I've got all the know-how of the idea. So I could, whatever the idea is, or a thought, a vision, something is a concept comes to your mind. But where are we with how we can do that thing? Are we putting in the study, the time, the know-how, the research? Are we getting help from people to build a belief in the idea? Then I get into the action and the discipline application of it. Then I get the results. So please pay attention to your ideas that come to you. I've gotten a habit lately of, this works best for me, is to show you exactly what I do. I go to my notes section in my phone and I write the idea down. The next thing I do is I calendar it. If it's like I need to do that, like don't let the week go by, then I will put in the calendar, I'll say idea notes. And then I go back to my idea notes and it'll say, let's see, I've got 4 people I wanted to reach out to individually, and I've got their names. Believe it or not, sometimes we hear of people that are struggling and need a pep and need a little praise or a little personal attention. So the little birdie told me, and so they're on my list. I've got one here for a daughter. I've also got a brother-in-law. So mostly people. And then I had the idea of changing hope to idea after going to hearing Matt Townsend. I thought I didn't want to minimize what hope is. Like, hope is such a good thing. And it reminded me of Shawshank Redemption. And I thought even about putting that into this like what hope is. Hope is such a good thing for us, and we hang on to hope. It's just hope is also very, very dangerous. If it only stays in hope, it does nothing. You just can't have an aura of hope without doing something. And this business, this real estate business, is doing the things. It's really doing the things that connect you with people. It's like you can't automate relationship, Joe. You said this over and over. You can't automate relationship. You can't do that with your spouse. You can't do that with your kids. You can't do that with your neighbors, your friends. So you can't do that in real estate. So it's if we don't do the things that build relationships, then we don't have relationships. So the ideas come, what can I do to make good relationships and build new ones and foster the ones that I currently have and build on them? Okay, what's those tasks? And then we move into that. So this is how I roll with the idea. The tools are so easy. I mean, notes easy, calendar easy, really easy. And then because so often the idea can't be done right now, this very moment, but it could be done today or this week. I could do that. I can find the time for that. Personally, I believe your ideas are, I hope it's okay to say this, please forgive me. But in my world, that is my maker speaking to me. Okay. So I believe your maker speaks to you with idea. So that's why pay attention to them and then get them into motion. Be respectful of the idea and put it into practice. And that's how we get results. I told you guys before that I remember someone saying, I want to be just like Joe Holden, but I'm not going to do what Joe does. And I went, okay, how are you going to do that? How's that going to turn out? So if we do like what Joe Holden does, we would produce like Joe Holden, and it really just comes down to where we're going to do those things. So, and there are ways to do them. Okay. Man, I've rambled a lot. Okay, anything else on my list today? So we do have roundtable tomorrow. I thought I would pop in on that too. There's a couple of forums. I switched gears a little bit just because I've got roundtable on here. A reminder, you guys attend that. But I'm getting, got a call yesterday about the form for increasing a 2% BAC to a 3%. And we were on the buyer side. And what's the form for that? Just jog your memory here quickly and see if you would know where to go. Yeah, you're going to go to .loop. Yeah, you're going to go to forms, but do you know the name of the form and how to find it? So part of this is very cellular level. I get it. It's one form, one issue, one concept, and do you know what it is? But we used to not have a UAR form for this. We do. It's been out for a few years now. We had an internal form to address this issue. Remember, we cannot address BAC. We're asking seller compensation, just similar to what we do with home warranty and concessions for buyers. That's the legal foundation in which the request is based on. But this is part of being the technician of what we do. So part of my study is always forms and the legalities in which are in there, because I use those so often to present and to teach. I'll grab the form to teach from. I hope you do that too, because that's a really great way to show complexity and to flex a little bit, you know, that you're really good at these things and these complexities need solutions. So attend Broker Roundtable tomorrow. Okay, guys, let's do this. Final task. Biggest takeaway today. We spent, 55 minutes together. So the last thing to commit to memory is, what's the one thing that you heard today or we talked about today that you want to try to implement, change, or improve? And go ahead and write that in the chat. Let's see what stood out today. What's sticking? Perfect. Being able to entertain yourself is the key to happiness. Yes. Oh, it's perfect, Roxanne. Schedule a vacation. Awesome. And go instigate it. Chris, the accountability line that you keep saying has worked well for me 3 times. Yep. 3 times or it doesn't count. Yep. If you did it once, nice job. It was a trial. Yep. Very good. Still working on improving my morning. Good. It could take a while, Kimmy, but you'll get there.
Oh my gosh, come on.
Yeah. Sorry. No, okay. Sandy, let's see. I had a thought, an idea, act on it. Good. Schedule a trip with my hubby. Sweet. Monique, that will go over very well. Matt Towns will be happy. Guys, he grabbed me afterwards and he goes, Will, I've heard so much about you. He goes, did you know that Tammy bought the mega package? He says, and we're going to see you in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, what? Anyway. Yeah. All right. Morning routine, muscle memory. Good. Yeah. It's a real thing. I'm blown away by that. Yeah. Muscle memory. It's a real thing. It'll commit you to habit. Good. Well, hey, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. I love you. Celebrate the challenges. That's where your opportunity is to shine, right? Be a calming influence with this stuff. There's answers. There's resources. You can do it. You can do it. You don't have to do it alone. All right, Joe, we can